All right. I think last time so far from my record here, we've covered quite a number of topics, and we're going to cruise quite a lot between now and October end as we move towards the final examinations. We will try to correct me right or wrong. We have looked at child protection in general, and we have looked at what I said, the 5 P's, right? 5 R's, alternative care. Okay. And we have looked at child safeguarding. We have not looked at the CRC. We have not looked at the SCRC. We have not looked at the Journal of Life and offending protection in the context of child welfare. Right. Here, I think the last thing that we looked at was child protection in the context of child welfare, where we said that child welfare as a continuum of care, which looks at issues of policies, strategies, and systems, including structures, which is designed to ensure that there is safety for children. And I think we also looked at a few issues, and from there we just let's see. What welfare services are all about. I think that's what we looked at. And we also looked at the welfare system, what the welfare system is. And there's a question which you got during your examinations, I think, which was looking at a very simple and straightforward question. Right? It was about can I remember it? Yes, I should. I should know it. No. Let's have got an old paper. Okay, forget about it. So, a welfare system, I said, is a set of groupings of systems that provide support to children. They could be private or they could be public. And there's a question about that. And the question was that between public and private agencies that provide services, there are certain services that a private entity cannot provide. I remember that was a question. So I hope you got it right. And also, here the system is to ensure that there's a permanent home for children, particularly for the public entities. And here, we looked at the roles of the public agency and also the private agency. And some of these, I think we looked at the family preservation services, the child protection services, and also the union, which we refer to normally as the reintegration program, as one of those services that are important. And I think we had our goals set, and I mentioned about the 3, 4, permanency, safety, well-being are some of the goals, and also what an agency can do. And from there, I think that's where we did conclude. So issues of child vulnerability was not part of what you mentioned here, Madam. Yeah. So here, today, I want us to look at the issues of, did I have it here? Yes. You say we do not look at alternative care? Alternative care. No, help us. No, you may have been absent, for you who are perpetual absentees. So, yes, what did we say alternative care is all about? You've changed your mind? Okay, so you see here, we're talking about to arrange an alternative care for children, right? Takes us to a topic which looks at issues of what we call alternative care. So let's look at what we call alternative care here. What is alternative care in child protection? What is alternative in normal English?
Another way.
Okay, alternative is another way. Okay. Anything else? Substitute. You see, so or a replacement, but the replacement is not an alternative, but you can use it interchangeably like that. So, alternative care in child protection refers to any formal or informal arrangement where a child is looked after, whether it is overnight or for a long period of time, outside the parental home. That's an alternative care. If you go to your agogo for overnight and maybe other nights, you'll be a child in alternative care. In other words, that's a substitute care for you outside your parental home, right? I don't know how many of you ever go to your agogos, and in town you don't have a agogo. Do you have a agogo? Do you ever go there? Where? And sleep there? 2, 3, 4 days? Yes, so that's an alternative care. But because you're not a child, so it's just, you've just gone there. But for your child, that would be an alternative care. In other ways, something that provides that protection for you for that period when you are outside your parental home. So this type of alternative care can come in 2 or 3 forms. One, it can be through a judicial decision, or it can be through an administrative decision. And it may be by an accredited body, in other words, a social welfare agency or whatever it is, or just an individual, right? And we see those things coming around. When both parents die and have small children around, they're given to other people to take care of, right? That's an alternative care. Akakaenda gogo hao, akakaenda akazi hao, kamata ndani. Akazi ndani. Who's the akazi? Yeah, so all those are alternative care choices that anybody taking care of the child, and the child is in a risky situation, that child will be given that type of arrangement. So, alternative care too can be initiated by the child, right? If the child is aware of an intention, right? Either by the primary caregivers or by the parents, and something like that. We have seen children who go away from their parental homes to a relative, right? To stay there because they have noticed something wrong in the home. So this is now the care factor, right? Something where they are not able to be cared for as required or as desired. The children may decide to go somewhere and stick there, never come back. You say you go there, come back, says reason because maybe they've been able to have breakfast in the morning when at the home they don't actually. So they can stick around and remain there. That will be an alternative care. In essence, alternative care involves the removal of a child from the original home, right, to a home which is a substitute, where you think the environment is better from where the child is. And in most cases, you find that the children who are subjected to this type of arrangement would either be orphans or children in homes where you have parents who are chronically ill, or in homes where I think families are in abject poverty. Sometimes they may decide to arrange their children to be moved to an alternative care system. So this is an alternative care approach to child protection. This is a question here. Take note of this. We will discuss next time. To those children who run into the streets, are they placing themselves on alternative care?
That's where they find food, so to them is an alternative care.
We are going to have assignments this time around. So this is your assignment 2A. We are going to have assignment 2B. Yes. Excuse me, please. This is, you are not going to dictate what you want done to yourself. I'm telling you what you have to do. We're going to have this one here. This one here, as assignment 2A, right, is going to be discussed here. You write and you bring what you write down here. We're going to discuss. And this one will be due on, give me the date. When do we have to deal with it?
Next week. Next week. If it's a presentation, it should be next week.
How many prefer next week? How many say this must be presented next week? We're talking of next week, which is next week will be 2nd or 9th.
Yes.
9th October. This one is going to be graded and it's also going to be a part of your assessment for your final exam. Right. Agreed. Uzakumbukia bwana, you are not right. How are you going to remember?
I thought you were saying that. You said the document.
All right, so let's proceed. You are just looking at me. What do you want me to do? Okay, so the issue is are children who run into the streets, placing themselves on alternative care. Now, your discussion will be based on what you have just looked at here. For example, can children be aware of the intentions? Very simple statement, but something we have to come from here. What are the intentions behind those children who run into the streets, right? Can you look at what we call the pull factor and the push factors, right? When you look at what are the push factors, what are the pull factors, and what else is there in between the pull factor and push factors for those children to go into the streets, right? I'm trying to just explain to you. And when they get into the streets, right? So your discussions will be based on those things around. Just trying to give you the hints, right? And we look at the issues of the push. Versus pull factors. These are things we'll be looking at. Agreed? Okay. So what we are going to do is on the 8th, or thereabouts, you'll have handed in your, on the 7th, I want your papers with me. These ones. Yes, you write, you bring them to me. It's an assignment. Then after that, there will be a discussion. I would rather have the hard copies around.
Yeah. If you really, I like the hard copies. For hard times.
For hard times, okay. All right, so let's proceed. This is how we are going to approach our second part of the semester. Now, this one I'm going to be very fair with you. I will only need 4 pages. Just 4 pages. This is a very big work. It's 4 pages, right? Minus cover. Reference. Right, so this is how we're going to look at this thing here. All right, let's proceed. Now, a child therefore may be removed and placed in an alternative home for care and protection for several reasons. There are quite a lot of reasons. Those are some of the things that you'll be looking at. One, if the biological parents are unfit to provide the requisite care and support or protection as required, then a child may be removed into an alternative home. Now, how can a child be removed on an alternative home? From a biological parent to an alternative home. What would happen? This is explained in our introduction here, where we're looking at either through a decision of a judicial nature or an administrative authority or an accredited body. These are the only ways through which a child may be removed from a parental home to a home where she's put in an alternative care arrangement. So here, your understanding of how you move a child into an alternative home lies in these 3 issues. So as a social worker, you will be an accredited individual, right? Under the Child Care Protection and Justice Act, you are what you call guardians ad litem. You are protectors of children according to the law if you are an accredited social worker. So you can make a decision to remove a child from a home which is unfit to an alternative care, right? That's first. Secondly, you can use judicial systems or arrangements to remove a child from a home into an alternative care. Or you can use administrative means to remove a child into an alternative care. But the reasons behind that should be, one, where biological parents are unfit to provide requisite care and protection to the child. What do you think would be? How would a family be deemed to be unfit to provide care and support to a child? What would be the reasons?
The reasons why a family is
could be declared to be unfit to provide care and support to a child.
They are poor.
Okay, so issues of poverty, issues of abuse in the home, issues of incapacity, for example, mental problems, and also probably issues of orphanhood, right?
Yeah.
Issues of divorce. All these can lead to a child being placed into an alternative home care arrangement.
So I don't know.
And sometimes it could be a child opting to move out on his own volition. Can the child just, that's a runaway child.
Yes.
Just run away and decide to live somewhere.
Yeah.
There must be some problem with yourself. How do you do that? Tawa makolo ano, eh? So, and we talked about a lot of issues: abusive situation, poverty, orphanhood, the mental capacity of the parents to provide care and support, and quite a number of issues within the home. It will be the environment in the home which is not conducive, and therefore a child may be put in an alternative care arrangement. Yeah. Also, issue of family breakdowns, right?
Yeah.
When we talk about family breakdown, there are quite a lot of issues. Communication, for example. There would be communication breakdown and therefore rendering that particular family dysfunctional. Simple example. Let's assume in a family, a wife and a husband, right? When we talk about a wife and a husband, means they are married. It's a family, right? But each one of them brought his own problems, right? 2 children and the other one another 2 children. You call them overpesa. That's what you call them, eh? Yes, that may create a communication breakdown, and that may lead a family into a dysfunctional state. And in that situation, children may be brought or taken out into an alternative home. If a woman or a wife does not want children from the father, from the kunjira or the akunjira, no, do you go in the chair? Katunda awabweresa munyumba from somewhere, and the mother brings her own katunda as well. So those can lead to family dysfunction, and the children may. As in children. Yes. Yes, children means you bring your own 2 children, your husband brings another 2 children, so you have a family of 4 children, but from different backgrounds, right? It can bring communication breakdown. For example, the husband of the wife, the former husband of the wife wanted to come and visit his children in the home and create communication breakdown.
Exactly.
And also the husband of the whatever wanted to go and visit the ex-wife to see children. And sleeps there. Those things can create communication breakdown, and children may be in a risky situation, and they can be taken to an alternative home. The lost but found children, these are, say, abandoned children. I think we are aware that we have rising cases of children who get abandoned, right? Sometimes at birth, and they're actually in the wrong way here. It's very serious. We are getting at least 2 to 3 abandoned children every week, right? Area 36 is leading into that. They pick up children thrown in the bushes or something like that. And those are abandoned children or lost but found children, where you cannot trace their parents. They have to be taken into an alternative care. And this is one role of social work practice, because once these children have been found, then they are taken through the processes, police, social welfare, and from there, it's up to you to identify an alternative care system for those children. And also, there are children who require specialized care due to their conditions. They may be taken to alternative care. If you have a child who has a very serious disability, where a family cannot provide for that type of care, then those children may be taken to an alternative care arrangement as a home for those children. So we shall be looking at the CRC very, very shortly, but I think I want to jump. So we look at the CRC. Let me just see, for expedience, look at it. But I think we have our own CRC. We shall be looking at it. Let CRC. After we look at the alternative care, we shall move to look at the convention. So this one, I'm going to actually pend until we are through with the alternative care situation that we are looking at here. Yeah, so if you go through the CRC, which we are going to be looking at later, this is what we call the Convention on the Rights of the Child. In Article 20, it does recognize that children may require an alternative care system or alternative care arrangement. And here, what the convention states is that alternative care for children as part of their protection may be temporarily removed, that is, a child may be temporarily removed or permanently removed if that child is deprived of his or her family environment. That's one thing. Or in whose best interests cannot be allowed to remain in that particular environment. This is a very, very clear and straightforward section of the CRC. In other words, even at the UN level, they recognize the use and the importance of alternative care for children in need of care and protection. So we shall be looking at this as we move on to look at the CRC. And here, because I've just mentioned it here, following what I've just said about the Article 30 of the CRC, they also provide the guidelines that are supposed to be followed at the UN level. Now, what is going to happen is when we look at the CRC, we should also be looking at our Child Care Protection and Justice Act back to back, so that we're able to understand why the UN issues actually are reflected in our Malawi law on child care and protection. So here we find that these guidelines which we have here under the UN, under the CRC, also appear in our Child Care Protection and Justice Act to demonstrate that actually national states are supposed to domesticate what UN prescribes into their domestic laws. And this is actually what has happened with our Child Care Protection and Justice Act. So here, the guidelines from the UN CRC on alternative care are to ensure that, one, children should not be unnecessarily, right? They should never be unnecessarily found in a situation where they are out of home without comparing reasons. That's very, very interesting. They should never be out of their home without comparing reasons. Now, why do they bring this here? For example, why would they want to look at this one here, and for what reason? For example, when you look at the CRC, you discover that the CRC strongly recommends that a child must always be brought up and protected within the family and by the parents. That's one issue which is there in the CRC. And here, the CRC tries to strengthen that belief by putting a guideline where it prohibits removal of a child from the original home into an alternative care if there are no comparing reasons. And the comparing reasons are the ones which I gave you up there. If the child has no parents, if the child is in an abusive home, if the child is in a bad environment, then these will be comparing reasons, and therefore the individual child may be required to move into an alternative home. Number two, it is important that the type and quality of care of out-of-home care, right, must be appropriate to the rights and specific needs of the child. Must be appropriate and specific to the needs of the child. Now, what this means is that if you are a social worker and you are trying to support a child or help a child move out of the parental home, you must ensure that where the child is going to go to be placed in an alternative home, that child will be given the right protection, and also that that child is going to enjoy his or her rights as an individual or as a human being or as a child needing that type of protection. So here, what it means is that for any removal of a child from original home, there must be appropriate assessment and also appropriate justification for removal of that particular child. This would be a very good area for examination, I think, because we are going to be practicing as social workers out there. And how are you going to remove a child? Are you going to use the UN guidelines? Are you going to use your child care protection, whatever it is? And how do you decide to get a child into an alternative care? The basis for you are deciding to take a child into an alternative care is very, very clear here. There must be reasons which are compelling, very compelling reasons for that child to be removed out of the original home. And also secondly, that you are assured of the child's protection and also enjoyment of his or her rights in that new environment where that child is going to be moved into. And here, they are actually emphasizing on the issue of assessment and also on how you are going to justify that removal of a child. And here, the CRC continues to give us some guidance, and they're talking about the relationships between what we call the parental care and the family environment, the child's family environment. What is the relationship? Right? Is it possible to have a good, beautiful parental care for a child in a bad family environment? That's a question. Is it possible? Very good care, but very bad family environment. Give an example. Very good care, but very bad family environment. Or very bad care, but very, very beautiful family environment. Can we give an example? Anybody?
Let me give an example. Yeah, the first one. A rich family whereby if the father is drunk, you abuse children. Then you beat them. Yeah. Second one may be those poor people who still tries to take care of their children, sending them to school.
Okay, so here, what we're trying to look at is very simple and straightforward. It is possible that children grow up in double standards, right? We have a child in area 43 or area 44 in a family, and we have a child in Guzan. Where is Guzan? I don't even know where it is. Okay? Right. So you find that the child in one of those areas lacks parental care, because every time the father is in Dubai, the mother is in Cape Town. She's taken care of by the watchman and the maid. Right. Situations like those must be understood, because they have impact on how that child grows up and how that child actually develops. And there are situations where a family environment is dysfunctional. So we are talking about a beautiful, very wealthy family, but the family is dysfunctional. They're never available for the child, right? And alternatively, where you have a very, very, very poor family in a very, very poor environment, but the parents are always available. When they want mango, fruit, they'll share. Peace, peace, peace. Right? When they have a small fish, sima, whatever it is, they'll give the child first priority and eat the remains and something like that. So you can see this dichotomy of family environments and see how they can have an impact on child protection and also on how children should be considered for alternative care or not. So when we talk about alternative care, we're not talking about alternative care for children in real poor environments, whatever it is. It is possible to get children from very rich families into alternative care. If you look at children in some of these plush, big locations, you find that their behaviors are quite contrary to what is expected of them based on where they live and something like that. So all these things would be compelling reasons for a child to be removed into an alternative home environment. And it's very, very important. As a social worker, you don't have to create or have preconceived ideas about your service users that you are meeting or the children that you're going to meet, right? And I am sure even when these children go to school, for example, see your jet, a child in area 42, 43, whatever it is, and 44, may not want a family rather, may not want his child to go to Mkwichi, to Kamza Academy, right? Yes. So they think what you call profiling. Certain services are for certain people, a certain category of people, a certain class of people. That's what we think, right? But life is not like that. You find that those guys who go, children who go to Kamza Academy, come out very, very poor, very, very badly in terms of behavior, drug abuse and use and all sorts of things around. So these are the issues that the guidelines are trying to tell us, that let's not take situation at face value. We must go beyond the face value and look at what actually is on the ground. So why do we have the alternative care? Here are some of the goals. One, for the CRC, there must be a criteria for placement as a goal. So your goal is, do you have a criteria for placement? And this comes back to what we mentioned earlier on as comparing reasons. Do you have comparing reasons for you to move the child into an alternative care arrangement? And also, do you have the policy that guarantees the welfare of that child, the protection of that child? And also, what are the practices around? So these are some of those issues which can come. A simple question can come around. According to your understanding of the CRC guidelines on alternative care, why is it important to observe, right, the parent-family environment relationship? That would be a very good question for an exam. But this is how we set exams. They just come naturally. You see what it is. So you need to be taking note of those things and see how best you can use those during that the D-Day. You quote the D-Day. So let's look at what we call the types of family care. You pay attention. These things are going to find them in the field when you go, right? You have a child, you don't know where to get this child to. And you're in an office, a child lost and found, the policeman will just bring that child on your table and they'll go. No question, no answer. Tatulamwana area 36, uyu, and they go. What are you going to do? That will be something that you can sort out. So one of those types of alternative care are what we call the family-like care. The family-like care is a type of arrangement where children are placed in small groups, right? That simulate a family-like environment. To simulate is to do just like, right? So children will be in a small group taken care of by a caregiver, right? Who we call maybe a fictive parent. Could be an institution, small institution, but they are trying to emulate a family environment. I think we had a few. I remember in Area 25B, we had one. Just a family with 2, 3, 4, 5, I think 10 children put together. It's not an orphanage, just a family like, where there's a mother and a father as a family, but they brought in a lot of children under them, those children who needed that type of care. So this is a family-like care where you are bringing children under the care of a family, and the children grow just like they are in a normal family. So we call that a family-like care. And the second one is what we call the kinship care. This is very, very common. It's a care where children may be removed from the original parental home to a relation or to a relative, so that the relative can provide care to those children. So we've seen those things, right? Kinship care, all parents die, children go to a Khazi, or children go to uncles, children to go grandparents. So that's the kinship care, because children, actually those people taking in children have an obligation as part of the family or kinship to take care of those children. We call that kinship care type of alternative home care arrangement. And in kinship care, sometimes it may not be a relation, it could be a friend, it's possible. I think we have seen children who have grown up with their parents' friends. Is it possible? I think I've come across some cases where parents die, or both parents die rather, and a child is taken care of by the friends of the family, right? So that too is a fictive kinship care. And sometimes...
Which one is fictive parents?
What is it?
I'm asking. Which one is it?
Can you go ahead with your question?
Fictive parents.
Which one?
What are they?
What do you mean?
The Adiwa minute.
Fictive parents? You should have asked the question better. You say which, I can't answer. What is fictive parenting?
Yes.
That's a better question, right? Yes. What is fictive? What does it mean? Kimber, what is fictive?
Fiction.
What is it?
It's not the first time you come across this way.
Okay. Yeah. Now you're in the university, your vocabulary is growing. So this is how you grow your vocabulary. Fictive comes from fiction, right? Fiction is the unreal situation portrayed in a real sense. See your jet? It's the unreal, but the way you look at it, it looks like it's real. See your jet? Now, fictive parents are parents that in your mind they are your parents, but they are not your real parents. Yes. You just create in your mind that these are my parents, but they are not your parents. It's just like fiction. That's what it means. Right? So we find that if kinship care uses a family friend, that too will be fictive in nature. Right? Because they are not your real parents. They have they have obligation to take care of you because they have offered to do that. But in real terms, there's no real blood connection or whatever, it is something like that. Yes. Then there's what do you call the foster care? How many of you here are in effective arrangement? It's possible. I don't say who, just trying to say. Is it possible? Because you don't understand the term, maybe it can start making sense. All right. The third type of alternative care is what we call the foster care system. This is a very commonly used approach in Malawi and I think internationally. Foster care is a system where a child will be placed in a private home, right? Or an institution by a certified caregiver. Who is a certified caregiver? A certified caregiver is someone who uses anyone of these three I mentioned earlier on. A social worker, certified as a social worker or as a probation officer under the Child Care Protection and Justice Act, or through the judicial system or administrative authority. So in foster care is the same official. Actually, it is official because it is sanctioned by the individuals who are certified to provide that type of service. So foster care actually is one of those that is highly used in Malawi here. Foster care is one step towards adoption. For example, according to the Child Care Protection and Justice Act, and I think Section 2 of this Act here does recognize foster care as a formal alternative care system sanctioned by authorized agencies, right? And the authorized agencies are the social workers certified, could be an administrative officer, or could be through the judicial system. Now, the question is kinship care a formal arrangement or informal arrangement? Let's answer these questions. When we started off, we looked at what I said, alternative care, as a formal or informal. These are things that we need to be looking at here. Very simple. We're looking at formal or informal. Now, if we look at kinship care and we look at these other types, which one is informal and which one is informal?
This one. Foster care, informal kinship.
So kinship care is informal?
Yeah. It can be both.
Yeah, you tell us. That's why we're here.
No, wait, let me understand what is formal. I think kinship is formal. Wait.
You say, what is formal? That's quite an interesting but ridiculous question at your level.
Yeah.
What is formal and what is informal? We are looking at issues of child protection. What is formal and what is informal?
Formal is bigger, informal is kinder.
So,
Yeah, and then foster is formal.
right. So here, foster care is an informal arrangement, right? Because it is sanctioned by authorized individuals here. And I mentioned that Section 2 of the Malawi Child Care Protection and Justice Act does recognize that. The fact that it appears in the law, it means it is formal, right? Because it follows judicial systems as well. Okay. Then you have what we call the short-term care. This is a type of temporary crisis care where you are trying to help an individual over a short period of time, maybe a child who is in some form of a crisis, either in the home or in the environment, or a situational crisis. When we talk about situational crisis, what do we mean by situational crisis? What is a situational crisis? Okay.
Situation where one is let's say crisis because of things like maybe personal parents.
Situational crisis is a crisis that is created or occasioned by a situation which is unexpected. For example, floods. That is a situational crisis, right? Just floods come in, you don't expect them, whatever it is, and they sweep you or whatever it is. So it becomes a situational crisis. The situation has created a crisis for you as an individual. So here, there are situations where children may be faced with a crisis, which is situational, right? Parents have just died, everybody has died, short-term care, you can look for what you want to do, and after that, you look for a better arrangement for that particular child. Then we have the medium term, and also have the long term. All these are types of alternative care arrangements that you as a social worker or somebody is providing support to children can use. So here, all those that we mentioned above would actually also be a part of the solution to short-term, long-term, or medium-term type of support. For example, the foster care in most cases is medium to long-term, right? The foster care is a medium to long-term support. So this one will be a medium to long-term. I mentioned that it is also a prelude to an adoption arrangement. These things are very practical. You get them when you get into practice, assuming you can get into practice. You see. The other type of alternative care is what we call community-based care. This is any form of care, including family care, which may be provided within or with support from the community. Have we ever heard of a term called CBO? Huh? What is a CBO? Okay. What does it do? What is it? What role does it play? Mm-hmm. Okay. Right. So community-based care also provides that alternative care arrangement for children. But the difference is that these children are taken care of with support from the community itself. So communities provide all resources for those children, and sometimes eventually children will have to go back to their homes, original homes, right? So this is a short-term type of, where children get out to a center, get provided with what they require, and from there they get back to their homes overnight. So this is supposed to provide temporary, short-term care for those types of children in that situation. Room number 6. Ndama kwa kwanza mkosi wayamba nandipepara watano. Yeah, so this is it. Now here, the community-based care is a very short term. Just to provide that care where children will be provided for, and also children will normally end up in their original homes. And I think this issue of the community-based care came around 2004, 2003, when we were faced with a lot of orphans. I think around that time we had about 1,500 also orphans in Malawi who required care. But all these children could not go for foster care because there are very few parents who could get those children in. These children could not go for adoption because it's a legal process and takes so long. And these children could not go into kinship care because everybody was affected by that. So as government, that time, there was this initiative to mobilize communities to create CBOs, right? So CBOs can provide that type of short-term care for children, and children should be able to get back to their homes. Then we have what we call the emergency shelter. These naturally are just designed to meet immediate needs of children. And they are very, very temporary. And here, we'll always keep children in such temporary shelters while we are looking for a long-term care solution to those children around. We have one in Lilongwe. Do you know where it is? Anybody? Where? I can't hear. Where is it? Where?
We have a community based here in Mumbai at Blessings Hospital. Of course, it is run by some human, but the community provide support to the children. We have houses inside the campus.
Which campus? The Blessings. Yeah, Blessings.
School, they also maneuver. They are then as my house. And they will stay with them as my house. So maybe a table. Akamaliza school yao akamaliza temu because ana jama kutawa. Ndio lazima iso ajama dada. The next day we end up with so that is a community-based.
Yeah, it is a community-based care, but it's much more commercial. That's what I think.
I need to
Ask. Is a CIS child care institution. So they provide school, whatever it is, and so forth, and they bring children and they go, whatever it is, and so forth. The CBO, maybe I'll give you a question. Who funds them? Where do they get the money to run that thing?
As in I think from Germany. Yes.
Yeah, behind Blessings.
Yes, Blessings Hospital.
I know.
Yeah. You know the school, the tuition academy, that's their school.
Okay. No, so that is different. It's not a community-based care. Community-based care organization is managed and run by Mafuma and the people. They get their own resources, whatever it is, and something like that. That one is just a child care institution. We need to find out what is supposed to be. That is from Zombe. That's belong to Zombe wa Blessings. Or it is independent?
It's near the
hospital. Yeah. So it must be a free independent. You know that area have a few institutions. We have another one. If you go turn off your airport to your left, there's a big structure down there. The Koreans. Yes, I know those guys. Yeah, I know all those things. Their headquarters is in Limbe at Mapanga. Because I was the one who gave them the certificate to operate. So they have moved into the Lilongwe now. So I know what it is. Right. All right. So emergency shelter for emergency purposes. And we have what we call the transit homes. In the Lilongwe, we have one, the government one, where we used to have Bottom Hospital, Kumuskuya. We have the transit center. And we have what we call the rehab center. Right? The what do you call the social rehab center, and some of you will be getting attached to that very, very shortly. I'm working with those arrangements, working with those children at the rehabilitation center. You know where Simama Hotel is? Yeah. When you take that road into Falls, the first building here, we have the whatever, the social rehab center, all sorts of things. We'll be sending some of you there to to work there for some. Amena kufuna. Nasa kufuna, no problem. But the opportunities for getting employed when you work becomes higher than a. Okay. Now, having looked at the alternative care, there's what we call the reintegration program. Reintegration program. It's a very important program. Why reintegration program?